Preview. That's the Nothing Personal Word of the Day. It is Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025. And last night we were treated to both a preview and a rematch. A rematch of the National League Championship Series when the New York Mets traveled to Los Angeles to take on the Dodgers. A preview because odds tell me that that's the two teams who will be left standing when October is beginning to come to its conclusion. As I was thinking about the game, I was thinking about what these two teams needed to get out of this four-game series, pondering the reality of how to get players to understand the importance of a four-game June series when they're on the West Coast or when they're at a home series, thinking about all the stuff they have to do off the field. Front office trying to get clearly into their minds, hey, let's get this one. Let's send a statement. The reason I used to say that is I knew the players didn't care about that. There's no such thing as a regular season statement, but you got to do something in order to get people's hair standing on edge during the interminable regular season. So what do? You make up stuff. And what you make up is, hey, New York, Mendoza, line, talking to the players. Let's just show them that we can stay with them. Let's show them instead of losing 4-2 in a 7-game championship series, that we can come take 3 of 4 in their building. And the best way to take 3 of 4 in their building, because normally when you're on the road in a 4-game series, you say to the team, let's just split. Winning 3 out of 4 would be a bonus. Losing 3 out of 4 is negative. Getting swept, let's not talk about it. Sweeping, unheard of. Winning 3 out of 4 is sort of the place you want to live. And then what you say is, hey, to win 3 out of 4, you win game 1. It's so funny, Coca, what we do to find motivation, what we do to create. You know, it's really a third cousin twice removed of bulletin board material. You remember from The Last Dance when Michael Jordan would create bulletin board material to get himself psyched up, be hating on the opponents or the opponent's coaches for no particular reason. You try all that stuff, but baseball's so different. It's so routine. There's so many games. You pull into Chavez Ravine, there's a little stress about getting to Chavez Ravine in LA. You're worried about traffic because you really want to get there at the same time. Most players have a routine by time. There's a bunch of team buses that go from the hotel. Players take Ubers, they get themselves there. Whatever the case may be, you get to the ballpark, you know you're playing the Dodgers. Everyone obviously is trying to beat the Dodgers, World Series champions, but you do your pregame routine. You pretty much do everything the same. And what the front office is saying to itself, because they're on the trip, because you don't miss an opportunity to go to LA, what you say to yourself is, all right, anything I need to be doing, how's the roster looking? What's going on with the pitching matchups? What's going on with the bullpen? How do we get Lindor to hit a home run? Because, of course, they know the stat that the Mets have won 26 consecutive games when Francisco Lindor hits a home run, which is a great stat. Puts a little pressure on Lindor to hit a home run. And, of course, he did hit a home run. And, of course, the Mets won the game. So after the game, when you go into the manager's room and you're talking about the game and you're making sure that Mendoza's ready to meet the media, see if there's any talking points, any injuries. You get the report from the trainer. You may check out the spread, get a little schnick-schnack. You send Mendoza out there, and then you start thinking about today's game. It is remarkable how quickly you have to rebound from day to day, that you often don't take stock in what the accomplishment was or what the moment was. So, for example, each day, each particular game, when there's a list of things that the players get about what the giveaway is, they get a list of what the timeline is, when the anthem is, when the lineups are, when the first pitch is. You get a list of what's going on from a marketing standpoint, that particular game. There's a printout that each player gets. Yesterday happened to be Lou Gehrig's Day in baseball. It was the 5th annual Lou Gehrig's Day. Wanted to just spend a minute or two, if you'll indulge me, talking to you about ALS, talking to you about Sarah Langs If you don't follow her story or don't know, she is a reporter for MLB, was a producer, got diagnosed with ALS in 2022, and has become a hero to many in the industry. It is a unforgiving, unrelenting disease. Have it in my family, and it is a situation where there is no cure, though money is raised. It didn't used to be called Lou Gehrig's disease. It was called that only after Lou Gehrig had it. The thing about this disease is that it ravages your body, but not your brain. Think dementia, but then go 180 degrees the other way, where your brain is completely aware of the fact that your body is breaking down inch by inch and organ by organ. And there's several different ways you can choose to deal with that. You can go into the fetal position, sucking your thumb, and just wait for the end, or you can go head on into becoming the face, becoming the spokesperson, trying to make a difference for the people who are going to come after you, knowing that the likelihood is any difference that is made will not be made in time for yourself. It's what we all do when it comes to charity, recognizing that we're raising money, trying to find cures for things that impact our families, that impact people we know and love. Baseball chose Lou Gehrig's as a day. There's obviously a connection to baseball, Lou Gehrig's disease. And then the face of it with Sarah Langs. And I wanted to just let her know, if she is watching and listening to this show, that baseball and you will be forever intertwined. And what you're doing in order to leave a legacy and an imprint and educating people as to what's happening with you and what you're able to do even with your diagnosis, it's inspirational. Absolutely. I love, one of my favorite things, Coca, in 18 years being in baseball, were the days that we had that were started with Bud Selig. Rob Manfred has continued them. The days that are associated with Mother's Day, and it's about breast cancer, Father's Day about prostate cancer, Jackie Robinson Day, Roberto Clemente Day, Lou Gehrig's Day, because I get to go into the clubhouse, talk to the guys about these particular days, these particular players, these particular things. And while you see players use pink bats or blue bats, or their pain, their respect to a particular disease or a particular moment, really my goal was not just that. It was to try to raise money and raise awareness through their social channels, through their agents, anything you can do to raise money and awareness. It's why it doesn't matter if you've got a platform, and what we talk about on Nothing Personal. If your platform is 1 million people, if your platform is one person, you get to control a message. You get to raise awareness for something. And for that, I give baseball a lot of credit. So the Mets go into LA, they win a particular game. They now only have to win 2 out of 3, which is a regular series win, to get a major statement series. And it may be a preview for the NLCS. Don't forget to call 631-377-4869. So you want to talk to Samson. That is 631-DPS-4869. When we do this, if you're watching on the Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel, it looks a lot like a Better Call Saul commercial, or a commercial for any one of these ambulance chasing attorneys. I am chasing you. Call the number on your screen, 631-377-4869, because tomorrow is the first show where we will do a full hour of your voicemails or your questions that you got to me on Twitter at David P. Samson or Instagram at David P. Samson. Make sure they're not drunken, rambling idiocies. We'd like there to be good questions, though. We've gotten a few funny ones from people who may be 68, 69th baked, but it's not going to make the show. So you want to talk to Samson comes from the movie Half Baked. There's a character named Samson who people want to talk to. Do you get it? Samson, so you want to talk to Samson? See you tomorrow. Hour 2 will be all about So You Want to Talk to Samson. I live for Coca's texts. It is a bizarre situation I find myself in. 1,289 episodes worth, all with Matt Coca. We do have an expanded team. I want to say hello and welcome you all to Jack Lerner, who is helping us on social media, helping us with clips. Outstanding to have him aboard. Meadowlark and all of the force behind Meadowlark and IT and everybody else. But Coca, he just has a direct line into my brain in a way that we do this dance when we're talking about topics and rundowns, because when you're a daily show and you're doing 2 hours, there's a lot to go over, a lot to prepare. And last night, I want to see exactly what time it was, Coca, but it was my favorite one that you had sent me. It was at 1900, and you sent me Fredi's back. The Braves have rehired Fredi Gonzalez to be their third base coach. Why is this noteworthy? Several reasons. One, Fredi Gonzalez used to be a coach with the Marlins. We hired him as a manager with the Marlins. We fired him as a manager with the Marlins. We then hired him to be a coach years later. Fredi Gonzalez had a long, successful run managing the Atlanta Braves. Succeeded Bobby Cox. The Atlanta Braves fired Fredi Gonzalez in 2016 and replaced him with Brian Snitker, who's still managing. And yesterday, the Braves rehired Fredi Gonzalez and put him as the third base coach. I'm not sure I've come across. Wait, Fredi and I were texting. I congratulated Fredi, and Fredi said something that is true and funny. Thank you. It's not every day you get fired by two different organizations and then you get invited back. Think about that. So I was thinking, is Fredi the only one? And maybe Billy Martin, except I think it may only be one organization where the Yankees kept firing him and rehiring him. I can't imagine too many people get fired from multiple organizations and brought back. We've done a lot of releasing players. You bring them back, fire people, bring them back. We did it with Jim Beattie when he was gone from us with Montreal, and we hired him as a pitching coach for a while in Marlins so he could get his full pension. We did the same thing with Mike Mordecai, brought him back. People may remember Mike Mordecai from his Game 6 heroics in 2003. It is rare that people leave on good terms, though it's a very important thing. Do not burn bridges in an industry that is capped. And that goes for any industry you're in. If you are in an industry where there are not a whole lot of companies doing what you do, where it's a small world of people knowing everybody else, make sure you don't burn a bridge on the way out because people have memories. There is a laundry list of players who end up burning bridges to the point where they're not welcome back. Executives have done the same thing. It doesn't take a big time Google AI search to figure out who those names are, Trevor Bauer. But the fact of the matter is that Fredi Gonzalez is not that guy. And it's noteworthy what happened yesterday because the Atlanta Braves are way different than I was, way more successful, way more. Just better organization, ran it better. Stan Kasten, when he was running it, was running the hockey team, the basketball team, and the baseball team better than I ran just the baseball team. Alex Anthopoulos and Terry McGurk have been super, super successful. Anthopoulos, you may know, was an intern for us back in the Expos days. You just never know how life's going to turn out. He's in his 14th year with the Atlanta Braves. He's never made an in-season coaching staff change. I had to read that twice because I'm trying to think of a year when I didn't make an in-season coaching change. If I had to do the math, Coca, which I didn't do, I would tell you that out of 18 years, I would bet you 10 times we made in-season coaching changes. Certainly year 2 for me, year 1 for sure, that bench coach, Louis Pujols, the manager, Felipe Alou, got rid of pitching coach, Brad Arnsberg, a bunch of different coaches. I'm going to say 10 is my over-under. Someone can look, if you're on the chat, Nothing Personal with David Samson live right now at 7:15 Eastern time. Let me know if I'm wrong. It may be the under. I'm taking 10. So Fredi's back. Why did the Braves do this? What would make them do this? Is it because they had Acuna come back and they thought that would be the impetus to truly run once they got back to 500, which they were able to do after an 0-7 start? They did get back to 500. Acuna comes back, hits a home run his first at bat. You think it's time, go time. Now they're back to under 500. They're chasing as of 2 days ago, which I can certainly check to see if they're still chasing. I believe they are. Is it really possible, Coca, that they're in fourth place? That is not a place you want to be. In the National League East, it is true that the Braves are trying to catch the Phillies. They're trying to catch the Mets. They spend a little time 5.5 back of the wild card. So you have Acuna. You're struggling at 3-6 since he comes back. The Atlanta Braves are finding themselves in fourth place in the division, chasing the Nationals, which is shocking, 4 games under. And you're Anthopoulos, and that was your big move, was getting Acuna back. Now you think, all right, what else can I do? So you look at the third base coach and you say, oh, that guy may be overmatched. Let's replace him. Let me be clear. It doesn't do a thing. People will be happy, and this is not yucking on Fredi. Having Fredi on your bench as your third base coach in your clubhouse, on your team charter, with your team is nothing but positive. The only player I can remember who didn't like Fredi Gonzalez was Hanley Ramirez, and I think Hanley likes him now. Fredi Gonzalez is one of those managers, and here's what he is as a coach. He is not the type of former manager who becomes a coach who's in that coach's locker looking at the manager's room saying, I want to be in there. I'm going to be in there. So many coaches over the course of my career have tried that monkey business, trying to exercise a palace coup. We talk about it on this show when you hire certain people. Brad Ausmus in New York has been great. I thought he was in position to replace Aaron Boone when things were not going well. And it turns out he's just been a great addition to the staff. I think the Braves are going to be great now. Did you see that announcement? I want to start this by telling you that I am alone on an island with people in MLB. When MLB opted out of the deal with ESPN, and it was the broadcast deal where ESPN left 3 years early, MLB left 3 years early, and now at the end of this season, there's no more deal with ESPN. There's no more baseball on ESPN. The question is, will ESPN even be able to cut a deal that allows them to show highlights on their new flagship app, ESPN? Will they be able to cut a deal at all? Will it even warrant any highlights within SportsCenter? Will they need baseball insiders anymore? All of that is up in the air depending on who the insider is. So that seems unlikely to continue. But what MLB has been telling the market since that opt-out is they are going to be better off than the $550 million ESPN was giving from their shrinking platform full of irrelevant people. And guess what? We have seen a steady stream of rumors, of leaks, purposeful. MLB and NBC, very interested, working toward a deal. Apple, very interested, about to head down the aisle of marriage between streamer and league, while Apple already has a deal that many people on many different shows have said, oh, it's only $85 million a year. What? That just shows how unhealthy it is. No, I was there. The $85 million Apple deal, when it was described and when I learned about it and what they get for that $85 million, it's a straight yes, like a unanimous 30-0 yes. If Apple's looking to increase their footprint in live sports, they are. Every streamer is. The position you want to be in is that of the content provider. It's why teams are worth so much money, because all these streaming networks, all of these linear networks, they all need content. Everybody is looking for something, and live sports moves the needle in a way that no other content does. Hard stop. So MLB gets out there knowing that there's tremendous upside given where the NFL network deals are, where the NBA network deals are, and they look at themselves and say, wait a minute, we can do better than what ESPN was doing by bifurcating all of the assets that were given to ESPN and selling them to different partners, doing a 3-year deal only, enabling them 3 years from now to have everything open, which would allow for a massive deal with 1, 2, or 3 networks. It's going to be 3. Mark my words. Multiple networks, much like what the NBA and NFL do. It all makes perfect business sense. So why is it that it continues to be that those in the media, certain insiders, believe that MLB has taken a step backwards? And for you to think that I'm carrying the water for Rob and for Noah Garden, believe me, I get enough calls from them saying, I can't believe you said this, or that, to tell you that there's no water being carried. This is just straight facts, straight sports business. It's straight economics. If one person gives you $10 for something, and you can take that something and split it up and sell it to 3 people for $4 each, you're getting $12 for the same thing, not $10. You have increased your revenue by 20%. It's a question that all businesses ask themselves. When you are a business that decides where your revenue streams are going to come from, how you're going to split up your product, where you are going to sell your product. When you've got the wild card round, you've got the home run derby, you've got Sunday night games. That's what ESPN had. If you split that between Apple, NBC, and they decide who's going to take what, I still think NBC takes the Sunday night package. It makes perfect sense for them. I think Apple being in the playoff business, which they have not been in, is something they would absolutely like to do and pay for. Apple is willing and will do a 3-year deal in order to line it up. Everything is working exactly the way MLB wanted it. When you're building a team or when you're running a league, it is really hard with all of the noise that exists. I don't mean the social media noise. So many people in sports business, so many people who are telling you that they can do your job better than you do it. I used to liken it to when I was on Wall Street, imagining people looking over my shoulders while making trades, saying, man, I wouldn't have sold there. You sold too early. I wouldn't have bought that. No one's looking over your shoulders like that except for your managing director. Certainly no one public, as long as you don't break the law. And then the minute I got into baseball, it was a total different story, where every single person, whether it's a fan or whether it's a different executive, whether it's people in the media, they all assume, hey, I can do this job. Simple. I can do this job better than you do it. When it comes to selling sports media and putting packages together, selling sponsorships at the national level, at the league level, it is amazing the number of people who come out there and say, oh my God, MLB, they have no idea what they're doing. What a mistake. I wonder who would get it out there that MLB made a mistake by allowing the ESPN opt-out and embracing the opt-out. I wonder who would have an interest in that being out there. I can't think of it right now, but it'll come to me for sure that someone or something or some entity or some individual with plenty of followers would want it out there that MLB is doing something wrong. It'll come to me. I can't think of it right now. The way this will end, Coca, is that Apple will cut a deal. It will cut a deal. And that deal will be starting next season. And the way MLB will announce these deals, they're deciding in their mind, do you announce everything at once, showing that you got to more than 550, or do you announce it in counterparts as you do an individual deal with a streamer? A word to the wise. You want the narrative to be that you beat out ESPN. You don't want to announce, even if it's a $200 million deal just for the wild card round, which puts you in a position to be above 550 guaranteed. Until you can announce a number greater than 550, you shouldn't make any announcement at all. Baseball should coordinate with its media partners for this package, because then the narrative is one they control. No one can write, if you just sell one part of the package below 550, everyone can write, oh, you're not going to get your 550 back. If you announce all 3 immediately, that's more than 550, you get to say, hey, told you so. And you'd be surprised at the number of executives, from those making 60 million a year to those making 200 grand a year, the number of executives who are petty in that way. There is nothing better than an earnings call with analysts. There's nothing better when you do an all hands meeting with your company. There's nothing better when you're going to an industry conference, when you can peacock that you've outperformed your projections, that you've outperformed what the media expected you to be. And it goes all the way down to the core level of, hey, we were supposed to win 70 games and we won 80 games. You can even peacock that, though I didn't like doing that, Coca. I was one of those guys. Maybe it's why I was so miserable for 18 years. Either you win the World Series, you're a loser. 29 losers every year. Don't care if you win 100 games or lose 100 games. Don't care if you lose in the World Series or don't make the playoffs. The reality is you lose because there's only one way that we mark winning. It's like when the company's doing very well and you look at your stock price and your stock price has underperformed the market and you say, but wait a minute, our revenue's up and our exposure's up. And I would say, well, no, your share price is down. That's a losing year. You're underperforming the market. I thought that way about Survivor. I didn't care being voted out first. It actually saves time. You lose in the final tribal council, you're still a loser. MLB will come out of this a winner. When we come back, we're going to review a TV series that I started binging only a month or two ago. And then we're going to have a talk about the NBA and the NHL, the NBA Finals and the NHL Stanley Cup. Because if I read one more article preparing me for the nightmare that will be ratings, I'm going to lose my marbles. So I want to explain to you why, again, these articles are missing the entire point. We'll do all that after the break. Welcome back to Nothing Personal. It is David Samson coming at you live. We're on the Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel every day now from 7 for 2 50-minute shows. Then we're on the DraftKings Network from 8 to 10 a.m. You can find the DraftKings Network pretty much anywhere. Just look it, pin it, watch it. You get Lebitard's show, you get my show. And of course, if you're listening to this, we appreciate that. I know we're giving you twice the number of podcasts each day, 10 hours worth each week. Thank you for your loyalty. Thank you for continuing to give me your time. No matter how much prep time we do, no matter how much time we spend putting a show together, I'm still watching movies, I'm still watching shows, and it's now time for the review. What we're reviewing today is a show called Hacks. I reviewed the first 3 seasons of Hacks not too long ago, and I told you that I started out of nowhere on a particular day because I'd been watching the Golden Globes and the Emmys, and Gene Smart kept winning. And it was about an old woman comedian. And I had zero interest in the concept. I have no idea why. I love old women comedians. I love comedians. I love laughing. Can't you tell? So I gave Hacks a try, and I was hooked, lined, and sinkered. Watched the first 3 seasons immediately. It only took me a few days. Season 4 came out, and it only was out once a week, every single Thursday for like 9 straight Thursdays. Well, the finale was last Thursday. Luckily, Hacks has been renewed for a season 5. Season 4, to me, was the 4th best season of the show, but that 4th best season is still a whole lot better than most series' top season. The chemistry between Gene Smart and Hannah Einbender, separating art from artist, understanding that their chemistry as a top writer and a top comedian is brilliantly written. One of the co-creators and writers, a guy named Downs, also stars in it as Jimmy the agent. I love learning and watching how agents deal with clients, how clients deal with agents, how clients deal with trying to sell out gigs. Of course, we all do this, so I'm not going to feel sorry for myself for doing this. Everything I watch or read, I think about how it applies to me. And so as I'm planning a Nothing Personal tour for what I think will be later in 2025, and I'm watching how in hacks they do the tour, how comedians go on tour. I do this in real life where I'll talk to people I know who tour, and whether it's Brad Williams or anyone else, and how do they put a tour together? How do they stay fresh and smart and funny? How do they figure out what to talk about? All lessons that can be applied to Nothing Personal, both live with you every day or live in a tour stop. I strongly suggest hacks. Just check it out. Season 5, can't wait, we'll watch. I'm going to watch a movie today, Coca, called The Luckiest Man in America. Haven't seen it. It's with the guy from White Lotus, Walter Goggins, and it's about a game show. I think it must be like the quiz show, but I don't know. But I'm going to watch it today at some point before tomorrow at 7 a.m., and we'll review it. The Luckiest Man in America is the review tomorrow. Okay. Are you guilty? Well, be careful. Guilty conscience needs no accuser. I didn't give you the qualifier yet. Are you guilty of looking at ratings? Talking about ratings? Highest rated show ever. The third highest ratings finals game ever. We love the press releases. Guilty. Do it. We can spin a press release like nobody's business. If we are up 8% in a demographic of people between the age of 30 and 32 who live on 2 corners in Indiana, we will release that after a game saying we are up in the important Indiana demographic. The NBA Finals start Thursday night. NHL Stanley Cup starts tomorrow night, Wednesday, June 4th. And everybody is concerned about ratings. It's all I'm reading. It looks like the NBA Finals could be the lowest rated finals ever. It's the biggest mismatch of all time. Side note, Coca, that's not true. Stop it. The Thunder are a really good team. They're favored, according to DraftKings, odds subject to change, like minus 750 to win the series. People thinking, my God, mismatch. Coca calls me up last night during our pre-production call and says, David, don't you be fooled, because I'm fooled all the time on social media. And I send him stuff and I say, is it real? And he says, no, LOL. God, that happens too often. Don't be fooled. The Thunder are only like the 6th most lopsided favorite in recent NBA Finals history. There have been way bigger favorites, way bigger mismatches. Don't sleep on the Indiana Pacers. It is going to be great basketball. However, Oklahoma City, small market, middle of the country. Indianapolis, Indiana, small market, middle of the country. New Yorkers don't care. Los Angelinos likely don't care. What does that mean? It means that unless the series goes 6 or 7 games and then everybody watches late in the series, the early games are going to be lowly rated. And there's going to be announcements by cynical media members saying, look, the NBA is broken now. Adam Silver, were he to be given his wish by a genie, he'd rub the belly of the genie. He'd smile and say, I'd like the Knicks to play the Lakers every year. And then Rob would look at him and say, yeah, it'd be great to have the Yankees Dodgers every year. And then Gary Bettman would say, I'll take anyone not in Canada every year. And Roger Goodell would say, you guys are idiots. I don't care who is in the Super Bowl, because we've got more people watching that one game than you have watching your entire series, no matter who's in it. But here's the thing. Ratings don't matter. It's great to talk about and write about. It gives you a talking point. It makes us do PR releases on ChatGPT with great spin. But do you think the NBA is healthy? Do you think their media is healthy? They're starting deals next year in the billions, NFL billions. Major League Baseball, believe it or not, billions. Why is that? Because what the networks want is content. They want live content. We talked about it earlier in the show. Do they like the idea of more people watching? Do they say, wow, that impacts our advertising rates, and that can really put a dent in the rights fees that we're paying, and the advertising rates can go up and up depending on who's in it? Wait a minute. Nope. The reality is what advertisers, when they're doing business to do the NBA finals, they've done the business before they know who's in the finals. The make goods that happen are not because not enough people are watching. The make goods happen when there aren't enough games. It's why everyone in every league is always rooting for at least 6 games. You don't want series to end in 5. The NHL situation is slightly different. The thing with the NHL is that Canada doesn't rate in the US. When they become a 51st state, I can't even say it seriously. It's so ridiculous. And don't edit that out, but I wanted to deliver that with the proper level of seriousness, with the idiocy of that. But hold on. 4869. If Canada were a 51st state, then it is true that the NHL would get better ratings because no matter which hockey team was in it, whether it's Edmonton or Ottawa or Toronto or Montreal or Vancouver or Winnipeg, it would count as though any other team is in. When Edmonton plays the Florida Panthers in a Stanley Cup rematch starting tomorrow, it is going to be the same issue, where it will look as though there is not as much attention on the NHL. And then you'll dig deeper and say, well, wait a minute. The Stanley Cup this year is on Warner Brothers, TNT. Last year it was on Disney, ABC. Definitionally, more people will have watched Edmonton versus Florida last year than will watch it this year. Definitionally, based on availability on screens. But you will read articles starting Thursday. Game 1, lowest rated Stanley Cup ever. 22%, 4% down from last year, whatever the case is. But now you'll know why. And then you'll know that Gary Bettman will not hide in a corner and have to call up his broadcast partners to apologize. How do you react when people have the wrong narrative? Well, you can react one of 2 ways. You can decide that you are going to try to change the narrative through truth. You can ignore the negatives and let it go away. We've talked about that's tourniqueting the story. Or you fight it head on with spun press releases where you are giving credence to the cretins. I don't like giving credence to cretins because it makes people think that they don't have to seek intelligence or they don't have to manifest opinions that come from actual knowledge. I don't want to promote that ever. So when you and your friends are talking about ratings for the NBA Finals, I would make sure you pay attention just a little bit to this so you're not concerned and know that the NBA got billions of dollars in rights fees regardless of who's in the NBA Finals. But you can bet your sweet Bippy that when Coke and I take the stage on Thursday, we will have a segment that will tell you about the ratings, and we'll have to remind you again because you will be inundated with this negativity. If you don't believe me, John Skipper's told you the same thing on The Sporting Class, hosted by Pablo Torre with John Skipper and with me. We all in the industry say the same thing to you, and yet it gets ignored time and time again. Incredibly frustrating. Nothing personal pick of the day. What a night last night. I had an epiphany. It's a funny epiphany to have. So we keep track on davidsamsonpodcast.com. You can go on that website, go order some new merch. There is great new merch. We should actually, Coca, can we call up the people who run the website? Let's increase the discount from 10% to 15% to get people rolling. And let's start that for later on today. So 15% off because it's new merch. Because I remember I owe that to our fans because I forgot to do, because we had other stuff going on. I forgot to do the extra discount last Christmas. So we're going to do it now. We'll take it to 15% for a limited time to get you the new logo, get you the exciting stuff. It looks really good, actually. Again, thank you to Patrick. Why was I even thinking about that? I have no idea why that was in my head. I don't even know where we are. Coca? Hacks? Picks? Why was I don't even, nothing. In the document. Nailed it. Landed that 747. In the document, you can see every pick of the day. And our record is 71-73. But we recognize that we're betting with units, money. If you take two underdogs and go 1-1, you can still win money. We had the Mets plus 140 over the Dodgers. We had the Athletics plus 136 over the Twins. We went 1-1. We happened to win the one with the longer odds as the Mets beat the Dodgers. I don't know what I was thinking with the Athletics, and I want to give you 2 minutes on that if you don't mind. Remember Severino? You may remember him if you're a Met fan or a Yankee fan. You may remember when he signed to play in Sacramento for 3 years in front of 8,000 people, which is better than where the Rockies played in Miami last night in front of 5,000 fake people. But Severino, it turns out, while he's being paid the most of any pitcher on the Aths, he's hardly a number 1, number 2, or number 3 starter. And me counting on him to beat the Twins, who are HOTTT, may have been a mistake in hindsight. Taking the Mets in game 1 made a lot of sense to me because I thought plus 140 was way, way too thick. The pick for today is the Colorado Rockies. 4-8-6-9. Can you believe that my pick of the day is the Colorado Rockies? How can you possibly choose a team that just won last night to win 2 in a row for the second time all season? How can you choose a team that if they win tonight will win a series for the first time in 24 series? They've lost 23 series in a row dating back to the end of last season. How can you pick a team to win when they won last night and you just said in yesterday's show that the likelihood is they're going to lose $130? Well, the answer is there's a serious situation happening in Miami now. It is DEFCON 1,000 as it relates to attendance and revenue. It makes me feel sick to my stomach what's going on in Miami. But I'm sicker thinking about Sandy Alcantara. He's starting tonight in what should be a slam dunk. The Marlins should crush the Rockies. Except as you've heard us say after Sandy's pitched the last couple times, he's not Sandy Alcantara. He's a totally different pitcher. But for whatever reason, the odds today are the Rockies plus 150. Sandy Alcantara has an earned run average of 8. Even the Rockies, with their anemic offense, their lack of pitching, and their inability to ever win a series, getting plus 150 in front of a Marlins crowd. And here's where it gets interesting. The theory is when you've got your best pitcher pitching that you're going to draw more people, more walk-up sales, more day-of-game sales, more people interested in whatever game they're going to go to in a homestand. They're going to go watch Sandy pitch. Sandy has not moved the revenue needle at all for the Miami Marlins. There are very few pitchers, there are very few players who move that needle. Think Ohtani. Ohtani is the unicorn, moves the needle tremendously every road series, every city he goes to. Every home game, the Dodgers' attendance. The Marlins are in a position now where I fear that they are spiraling from a franchise standpoint in a ballpark that's now 14 years old with a situation with their TV. All of the economic principles that underlie that business are why it's not worth $1.2 billion today versus what it was paid for 7 years ago. But let's not talk too macro, and let's just say we're taking the Rockies plus 150, and I can't wait to celebrate the first 2-game winning streak of the season, first series win of the season tomorrow. I want to end the first hour of the show talking about an FBI investigation. There's a little bit of misunderstanding about this as well. It's been reported at ESPN. The FBI is investigating the Major League Baseball Players Association and the NFL Players Association because of its ties to a company called One Team Partners. One Team Partners is a group licensing venture. Let me explain what it is. One of the things that players have in Major League Baseball is they own their name, image, and likeness, and they have the ability to monetize their name, image, and likeness. Think about trading cards. They get to do trading card deals. They get to do autograph deals. They have their NIL. We've got all of the IP, which is why some commercials that you see players in, it looks like they're wearing their home uniform. But if you look closely, the cap doesn't have the mark of the team. The uniform isn't the exact uniform of the team. It looks like it, but it's not. When players do commercials and they get an endorsement opportunity, the company calls up the major league team. Hey, we're doing a commercial with player X. We'd like that player to be in a Marlins uniform. And we say, great, that'll be 25 grand. And they say, oh, all right, no thanks. We'll just put him in a teal vest and we'll call it even. And there's not one thing we can do about that unless there is confusion in the marketplace where the uniform looks so much like what we have that we can sue for infringement, trademark infringement, which we don't do because agencies are smart. But what leagues do is they go around and try to monetize all of these things because they're building up their lockout fund, their strike fund. They distribute money to all members of the union. Do you remember we've talked about players who broke the picket line during lockouts and during strikes and how those players were allowed to play Major League Baseball after? Kevin Millar, a friend of the show, is an example of someone who played when there was a strike or lockout, and the punishment was you get to be part of the union, but you don't get licensing money. All of the money that gets distributed to the players that they make as an industry, as a union, gets distributed amongst the players evenly, whether you're the 26th man or the top man. The problem is what's happening now is there's a bunch of potential, shall we say, people doing things they shouldn't be doing as part of this venture. There's talk that Tony Clark is somehow involved in doing things that likely he shouldn't have been doing. There have been investigations. There have been people questioning who's working where, how much they're getting paid to do what. The FBI, when they see an issue like this that can get this sort of attention, they're going to investigate. It doesn't mean they're going to bring charges. It doesn't mean there's been illegal activity. It means there is a thought. There's a possibility of illegal activity. That's what we pay the FBI in theory to do, not do the witch hunts, but to actually find out when there are illegal activities happening. If this business venture turns out to have had activity within it that could cause someone to be compromised, the way the unions will deal with that is by removing the people who were compromised. It will not change the reality of a company like this representing the union in its efforts to raise money. Could Tony Clark's job be sacrificed? If he is found to have been involved in any improprieties, they're going to let him go. And I'm certainly not accusing him, not saying he did, but I am saying that when the FBI investigates, they're doing it for a reason because they only have a certain amount of time. They only have a certain amount of capital to use in these investigations. It doesn't mean you're going to get an announcement. It doesn't mean you're going to get a result anytime soon. But if you are the subject of investigation, yes, I have been on behalf of companies I've been a part of. The reality is it's in your mind. The reality is you go ahead and continue doing your job. And if you've done nothing wrong, you've got nothing to worry about, only your time and only legal fees. Did Tony Clark do something? We're going to find out. And if he did something that involves getting money to him, his family in any way that union members did not know of or approve or that is not legal, you can't do that. The FBI will continue its investigation. They will then, at one point or another, I suspect, they will look really deep into the camera in front of a big press conference because everyone likes when big names get taken down. It creates great exposure for the entities who are doing the investigating. And they will have the ability to look right in the camera and just say, hey, it was just business. We're going to take a break now. And when we come back, we are going to start hour 2, and we are going to talk about Charles Barkley and inside the NBA and more confusion. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Nothing Personal. It is hour 2 of this first week of this new venture of doing 2 hours every single day. And part of what we're doing every Tuesday is that we're going to have a guest. Every Thursday, we're going to have a guest. So it's not a Samson sit down because those are separate episodes, but it is actually bringing a guest onto a regular Nothing Personal episode. So when we were thinking and working with all of the many bookers that we have access to at Metalark, we said to ourselves, who would be the perfect first guest to have? And to me, it was an absolute no-brainer. I wanted Dan. Dan was gracious enough to get to work early. He's got his own show that starts in 66 minutes live on Le Batard and Friends YouTube channel. We'll be on DraftKings at 11 o'clock. Dan Le Batard, thank you.
How flattering that you would have me involved with this, and thank you. And I hope that your audience understands the achievement. Your most loyal audience understands the achievement that you have reached in creating for yourself a career and a media business opportunity outside of your other career. And most rewardingly, doing it in a venture that's creative versus, sort of the accounting and architecture logistics of what you do that can build a stadium. But I imagine this little playground for you is more yours, and that you're even prouder of it than you were of a baseball stadium, because you've got a platform, you've got a loyal audience, and now you've built a business that is growing, and that DraftKings is supporting, and obviously that Metalark is supporting. So congratulations. Because if your audience doesn't understand the degree of difficulty on what you did, it really is a monument to your will that you were able to create another career after your allegedly more successful career.
Was that so hard? How could that not have been what you did on your show when we started? Like that seems to me to be such a nice way to introduce Nothing Personal to the audience. And I felt as though when you did it on your show, that you must have been more things in your mind because you were conducting as you do for 3 hours every single day. But I would like to just clip that and show it to the people where maybe they didn't quite get it the first time.
Well, but you didn't get it the first time, and I understand why you didn't get it the first time, because you don't understand why it is that anyone would find you unlikable. You are of the belief that there are not people who dislike David Samson. There are only people who do not know David Samson. And so welcoming you into our world when you are a far different taste, a far different, welcoming you to our alleged echo chamber when the things you say aren't the things that echo, you would understand why the audience would be resistant to something that never before has had what you bring, which outside of me is a reason to hate what you're listening to instead of only love what you listen to. It is nice and wonderful to have a audience that only likes you. That feels good. It's better to have an audience that likes you and dislikes you, because then you've got a larger audience.
Oh, there's no question. I think about that all the time when I was with the Marlins. I'm fine with you hate listening or love listening, because the only thing I'm guarding against is apathy. And one of the things that you've done with Metalark and you've done with your show, and people may not remember because some of them weren't born. I started with you on your show 20 years ago. I started right in the beginning as a team president doing movie reviews when you were on land terrestrial radio, only in Miami.
There must be so many people here who don't know some of the great details of this story, but let it be known when I say that this particular show is a monument to his will, that over the objections of the owner of his baseball team, who was his boss and family, really, David Samson continued to review movies. Keep in mind, review movies. It wasn't just the platform that was interesting to him. That was interesting enough. It wasn't just the ability to talk sports or baseball or show that expertise. I believe that the reason that he defied every boss that he had and risked firing is because he simply wanted to give his movie opinions weekly in a venue that showed people he was something outside of baseball team president identity guy. And And I don't think your audience has any earthly idea, A, how important it was to you, and B, the fights that you had to fight in order to keep your independence before you eventually just lost your independence. At some point, the owner broke and said, you can't do that anymore.
So the story behind that is I loved the opportunity because I watched a movie every day, even while running the Marlins. And I knew that you were the most popular show in Miami. And I wanted people to learn a different side of me. And I thought that I could live in your zany world and I could handle it. And nobody agreed with me. Our PR people, the owner, the general manager, every general manager I had, every manager I had, the players who I knew and were close to, they all said the same thing about you and your show, which is just stay away. Don't ever be a part of that. As a matter of fact, players didn't like going on the show with you, and we didn't allow players to go on the show with you because you were so such a smart interviewer, and you would get players to do things that they didn't like doing, and the fear was you were doing that to me. And what happened is about a decade later, Jeffrey, the owner, he actually did threaten me, my job. And I didn't think that it was possible because we didn't have a stadium. But once the stadium happened, it became clear that I was a little more dispensable. We were years removed from the World Series. And he said, if you do Le Batard one more time, you're fired on the spot. And the message was delivered by his PR guy. And so I had to quit, but I only did it for, remember, Dan, it was under a year that I stayed away. And I remember the first time back.
Let's let the audience in on the details, though, of what exactly happened there, because I really want your audience to understand the backstory and the roots of how important all of this is to you. The idea that you could show anybody a little bit more range of your personality and your humanity, because the advice that you've been getting from people for a long time, run away from Dan, is the same advice I've been getting about you, which is run away from David. And I don't know who's more isolated on that. I'm guessing you might have more consensus on run away from Dan than I have on run away from David, because some people around here have actually seen you be useful, as opposed to your family and your loved ones, which they think I only embarrass you publicly. I only create the wrestling character that comes very naturally to you to put you in positions that are manipulated so that you may look in public in ways that are embarrassing to them, but not embarrassing to you, because you might be the most calculated individual that I have ever met. I don't know how often you're surprised by something that you've done.
I would say that you were a part of something that the audience doesn't know. I co-wrote a play back in the day for charity, and I asked you, Dan, to play a part in that play, and you actually performed it with me. And it was a play about marriage. And if you recall what it was about a couple. It was called Do I Do? And it was about whether or not you should get married, and it is a man asking a woman to marry him and then fast forwarding through their whole miserable marriage and then going back to the present and saying, you know what, I changed my mind. I don't want to get married because I see where this ends. And you were single at the time. And I remember talking to you about this concept, and you said to me, and this has been a role you've played for me, and I'm so appreciative, it hasn't been totally effective. You said, David, this may not land well with your family. And it landed so badly. My wife at the time, my kids at the time, hated that play, hated that I was doing things to get more attention, and wanted to know whether that was me manifesting my unhappiness in my personal life through that piece of art.
You are vulnerable with your audience, and you challenge yourself in all sorts of ways like that create discomforts for you because of the challenge, I think. But I don't know that you have a larger challenge anywhere in your existence, and I don't know if your audience would know you this vulnerably or this personally, than the challenge that you have of being lonely at the center of everything that surrounds you, because you are surrounded by a whole lot of people who simply don't understand you, and furthermore, don't accept the parts of you that they don't understand? What, like, try to change, try to alter, try to convince you that you wish to be something else as a 57-year-old man?
Why do you think I love doing Nothing Personal? Why do you think I love coming on your show once a week to this day? And it went from a movie review to a quarter of a segment to a full hour, because I get a sense of accomplishment. The only thing that's come close professionally, and you'll be shocked at this, and I think people will be, it has nothing, winning the World Series wasn't it, because it wasn't me. While I helped put the team together and ran the team, I didn't feel as though that was mine, though I still love the fact that I was a part of it. This is mine, Nothing Personal. This started, literally, my mother was the first and only person to listen to the first show back in October of 19. And you were, when I was forming this show, I don't know if you'll remember this, Dan, but I talked to you about the idea. And what you said to me at the time is, I don't think it's sustainable because you don't realize the level of lonely it will be to do a show by yourself. You're going to have to figure out a different voice, a co-host. You're going to have to do something. And 5 years later, when DraftKings does a deal with Meadowlark and I do a deal with Meadowlark, and they want an extra hour, and now has been the perfect time to add an extra voice a couple days a week. We're going to add Coca one day a week. And it's not that you were wrong when we started. It's not that you were right. It's that the evolution of the lonely indicates that doing things in a playpen with you and others is true happiness.
I think that I was wrong, and I somehow underrated the will of a man who not only built a stadium on time with no cost overruns in Miami, which people do not understand. That is a bigger miracle than Jesus coming back from the dead, being able to do that in Miami. But
people hated me, Dan.
Underestimated the will of a man who runs 7 continents in 7 days, or 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents, because I do know how lonely doing this by yourself is. Jeremy Taché, who works for us and will have any number of broadcast opportunities in his future, I grabbed him by the wrist one time and I brought him into a room where you were doing the show by yourself, and I just pointed to the TV and said, look at what he's doing, watch it for 5 minutes. I assure you this is not the choice that you will make with whatever it is that you want from the rest of your life. I did a show by myself early in my career. It made me a little bit crazy. I don't have the need for control that you do, which isn't to say I don't have a need for control. It just means I don't have the need for control you do. And so you like to control your own space. And you're used to being this kind of lonely. I will tell you that my career changed on a dime when I decided I would not be the only voice in my head doing this. I would make it all communal. I had the equivalent of my midlife crisis in my early 30s professionally, where I very much decided that writing was too lonely and that doing the show the way that you do it was too lonely. I wanted shared experience. I wanted shared community. And I wanted the thing that your audience probably doesn't even notice that it doesn't get from this show, which is you laughing uncontrollably. You do not get to laugh uncontrollably when you're the only one talking.
So sometimes I laugh with voices in my head. When you put the network together and Meadowlark, you've got your show, Nothing Personal, Pablo Torre Finds Out. And as the person in charge of Meadowlark, and we can talk for hours about what Meadowlark is and how it came to be. But when you're thinking about putting shows together, tell me about how you match, because Pablo's show, my show, and your show, they're very different shows. Was that by design, or is that just because those are the people who you happen to, be friends with and do deals with?
It is by design in a couple of different ways. One is that I wish to work with and around my friends, and I wish for them to create and have the same sort of business opportunities and independence that we have, so that they may be protected by us in a difficult media time and build their own thing that can live outside of us. But more relevantly is that all of my friends tend to be people with whom I work, who I admire or respect. And this next part is hugely important. Are they interesting? Are they interesting enough that people will follow them and their curiosities because they think differently, they do differently? When I talk about the monument that you have built here that is a celebration of the things that you are, it starts with you realizing that there was a lane for you to be smarter than anyone in sports business that wouldn't be hard for you to occupy because everyone in sports business was so profoundly dumb. It helps that you are smart and you have uncommon expertise, but you have a lane that's uniquely your own, and now you've been able to grow something outside of that lane. So when I say it's by design, you and Pablo are interesting people. You have interesting thoughts. There are a lot of people at the trough right now giving their opinions on things. There are very few that you feel like you have to listen to. Your most loyal listeners prove in the numbers that they feel like they need to be informed by you on the things that are, at least in sports business. You've got more range than that, but I know the impact you're having in sports business where you have experts and executives listening to what you're doing because they're learning. It's not even just entertaining. There's nourishment there.
When you see what happens with Pablo, and again, he's going to be on Bill Simmons' podcast today. There's a lot of attention with the Bill Belichick story. Obviously, there's things that I do that get attention. Do you wince ever, or as the head of Meadowlark, do you love whatever the attention is, both beef and not beef, or are there times when you wince and say, "Hey, guys, that's too much"?
Here's what's pretty funny about you asking me that question. Obviously, I'm not terribly shy about attention, although I would prefer that the work speak for me because there are places that I'm insecure where I personally, being on a red carpet, that's not for me, but I like the work. The part that I'm enjoying with you and Pablo is that both of you are greedy and needy about loving that attention. Both of you, Pablo, since he was a kindergartner, wherever it is that he was repressed, I don't even know the places that he might have been repressed in his childhood, wherever it is the disciplines were, but I assure you that his greedy and needy craving for attention is something that was not filled until now when he sidled up to Bill Belichick and started snooping around his bedroom in a way that now brings him all of the attention he could crave. I would love to have an attention off with you and Pablo where we have a fight. Who likes being the center of attention more, you or Pablo?
I will end by telling you that there's a fourth person, a fourth musketeer named Dominique Foxworth. And Dominique, Pablo, and I recorded a show that I think is being released today, actually, where Pablo asked us to rank each other in the room who's got the biggest ego out of Pablo, Dominique, and myself.
Oh, wow.
And it was great television because we looked at each other, we laughed, and I assume Pablo kept it in the show, but he's got such a big editing staff and post-production, who knows? And it was, we tied for first, and we
That's
just
funny.
laughed. No one was going to give up on that.
I don't think of Dominique as needing as much attention as the other two of you, but he's also had plenty in his life, right? So you guys, president of the Marlins, journalist on TV, probably doesn't have quite the same popularity, cool factor, ego that a professional athlete has to have when he's fighting other professional athletes for money and attention. It's probably, in fact, it's not probably. I can say with great certainty that whatever it is that Dominique had to overcome in terms of competition and ego was greater than whatever you had to overcome in executiveness and whatever it is that Pablo and I had to overcome in media. The degree of difficulty of climbing over the competition was a little harder where Dominique resides than where the other two of you reside.
You could be right. Dan, you're forever my first guest on the new Nothing Personal. And you've got a show to do. You're 48 minutes away. Go to it. Get ready. Go back to the pre-production meeting. I appreciate your time. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the platform. Thanks for being a guest. And we're going to get back to the show.
Congratulations. How is it that you don't understand the difference between me congratulating you on this success and me welcoming you into our Miami audience's world as the guy who at my 50th birthday party said 1.2 billion F you to a bunch of Miami taxpayers? How do you not understand the difference between those two things?
Ladies and gentlemen, Dan Le Batard, thank you so much for your time. Let's talk about inside the NBA. One thing that I didn't get to talk about with Dan. Thank you. I hope you all enjoyed that. It's good to hear from Dan. Brilliant. Just brilliant. Appreciate the opportunity, to say the least. I want to talk about something. So many misunderstandings we've covered in this show. Misunderstandings about what's out there, the information that's out there. Coke, am I going to have to do this more than one more time? Because I've done it 10 times. One final. Here we go. Get really close in on me with all of our new gadgets. I want people to watch me now and listen to me later. Inside the NBA is not going away. Do you understand how simple that statement is? Warner Brothers Discovery owns Inside the NBA. They've taken it and licensed it to Disney. That means that Inside the NBA is going to produce itself exactly as it's been produced. It's going to be staffed exactly as it has been staffed. It's going to be filmed in Atlanta exactly as it has always been filmed in Atlanta. But instead of being on TNT or True West or TBS or yada, 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 it's going to be on ESPN, maybe even ABC or the Deuce or the Flagship or the DTC ESPN. All of the teary goodbyes, all of the talk of Charles Barkley, I don't know what the hell's going on, I don't know what's doing where. Let me explain. And it's not too long, so I don't need to sum it up. I own nothing personal. I license nothing personal to Meadowlark Media. Meadowlark Media licenses nothing personal to DraftKings Network. DraftKings, the company. And I'm on DraftKings Network. They are a sponsor. Right there in the corner over my left shoulder, DraftKings Network. Right there. You can see it if you're watching. There was a deal between Disney and Warner Brothers Discovery as part of a settlement of some issues and a larger scope of a deal that included the continuation of Inside the NBA through a license deal. Do you know who pays Charles Barkley? Warner Brothers. Ernie Johnson, Warner Brothers. Shaq, Kenny, the producer, the camera people. Disney company pays a sum of money to Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers takes that sum of money, pays all the people, and then keeps a margin. That's the business. I do not understand why it is people love the goodbye. And then someone brought something up to me, and it made me think. When David Letterman left NBC for CBS, the person said to me, do you remember all of the great things that happened upon him leaving NBC and all of the ways that they celebrated it, and then he started again? Oh, I do remember that. But you're forgetting the main difference. Guess what? Do you remember that it wasn't the same exact show? Do you remember there was certain IP that didn't come with David Letterman to CBS? Do you remember the circumstances under which he left NBC? Anyone remember that? It's not the case with Inside the NBA at all. This was a totally friendly deal that doesn't require the permission of the talent. Side note. You can have in your contract that you have the right to a consultation with where your show is licensed. You can have a right that may not be unreasonably withheld if it's licensed to a company that represents guns or something you don't want to be a part of. You have certain contractual rights. Here's what you don't have the right to do. You don't have the right to get on TV, go on different shows, and say that you're going to retire, you're not going to perform, you're not going to do your job, and you think that ESPN is a POS and that they don't know what they're doing. Which is why you've noticed a bit of a change in the PR of Mr. Barkley. He went on Dan Patrick just yesterday and said, I may only work 2 more years, even though I've got a 7-year deal. I may only work 2 more years, but I'm going to be good. It's all going to be fine. And then he said, quote, ESPN is the most famous sports brand ever. It's going to be awesome working for them. Does that sound like the way Charles Barkley had been talking up till yesterday? At some point, Warner Brothers calls up Barkley and says, hey, listen, Chuck E. Cheese, you're making a lot of money, like $21 million a year, and you cannot disparage us anymore. And you're going to be licensed to the Disney company. You cannot disparage them and expect that you're going to collect your money. Now, if you have enough FU money and you want to retire and walk away, be my guest. May we sue you for damages? We may. Do we have an opportunity to garnish your wages? We may. We might. But Charles Barkley bucked up and realized that I better change my point of view just a little bit. ESPN came out, Disney came out, and we're super clear. They're going to make inside the NBA exactly what it was. They're going to do pregame. They're going to do postgame. All the people worried that ESPN's going to muck it up. They're going to get involved and they're going to screw it up with commercials at the wrong time and producers and directors and people who are telling them and meddling in them. Not going to happen. That is not the real world. When you get an opportunity to license perfection, you take it and you monetize it within your monetization machine. Any tweak that you do is done for the positive in consultation with the company, with the program that's being licensed in order to make it better. If something cannot be made better, you leave it. But lest anyone misunderstand, if you're not growing, you're failing. If you believe you're stagnant, you're failing. Everybody is either going up or going down. Whether you win the same number of games year over year, you've still either gone up or gone down. I would assume that the Disney company, in all of their might and production authority, will have certain things that they will do differently in order to make inside the NBA better on the margin. They are not in any way going to make Charles, Shaq, Ernie, and Kenny do that which they don't want to do, or say things that they don't want to say, or take away what has made that show a success, because they'd be asinine to do it, and the amount of money they're spending would indicate they're not going to be that way. We're going to find out, but inside the NBA is not going away. Let's talk about NIL money and Texas Tech. Something happened yesterday. I love when we can draw attention to a business story in a sport that we don't talk about often. And I can tell you that in 5 years, the number of times I've spoken about the Women's College World Series, I would say the over-under is 0.5, and you may want to take the under. Now, of course, I can search all my old documents and find out. There's a player called Najari Nizari. Nizari. This is hi, Coca. Stop it. I got it wrong. 4869. There's a player called Nizari Kennedy. Nizari Kennedy is a pitcher who pitches for an organization out of Texas Tech. Here's the thing about Texas Tech and women's college softball. They haven't been good. Here's the thing about Oklahoma. They've been really good. Oklahoma has won 4 straight national championships. Since 2012, they've won 7 titles. This is a long-time dynasty. When they're not winning, they're coming in second. What Texas Tech did is they beat FSU last week. They beat Oklahoma this week on the road. Why is this noteworthy? Why? Because Kennedy signed a $1 million deal to go play for Texas Tech. She transferred from Stanford, another powerhouse, to go to a team that had never won a conference title. Forget the College World Series. Forget even being impactful in the College World Series. She left as a free agent and joined a club. This is the equivalent of Robinson Cano going to Seattle or Alex Rodriguez going to Texas. This is a major story. And I bring it up only to tell you that I love being right. I admit it. You heard Dan talk about it. Of course, I've got ego, maybe even a little id. But the ego is that I told you that what's going to happen in college sports is total and complete free agency. And in free agency, if you can find someone to outspend, damn the torpedoes, forget the mistakes, forget the wasting of money. If you can just spend it and you hit it right once, you have an opportunity to buy a title. What do we have against that? It's happened in professional sports. The Marlins bought a title in 97. People argue the Dodgers are buying a title now. It is very common, especially in the era of NIL, where if you get a booster, forget the PR announcements of Steph Curry being the GM of Davidson or all these superstars who are going to help operate programs of their alma maters. It's a bunch of horse hockey. What it means is they got a title. It's like putting their name on a building because they've committed to give money. They've committed to be a part of a collective or to give money to get better players. And people are doing this unapologetically. And why shouldn't they? What would anyone have against if Davidson all of a sudden can sign and have $30 million worth of players on its team? Why can't Davidson be Duke? Why can't Texas Tech be Oklahoma? Why can't the Marlins be the Dodgers? The reason for the latter is that in a collective bargaining situation, in different markets with different revenues and different economics, it makes it impossible. In a salary cap world, it makes it difficult. In an NIL world, it makes it simple. Giving $1 million to someone, do you think that there's a chance that there's a benefactor who would give $1 million to someone in lacrosse or in volleyball or in track? And if you do it right. Think about what this player is, Kennedy. Just think about her ERA, 0.89 in 205 innings. This is not nepotism or a schlepper. This is someone who is going to come and make a difference in a way that it's very hard to do in a sport, in a team sport, where one player can make a difference like this. And this player is Ohtani. Not only does she pitch, but she hits. She took the $1 million, goes to Texas Tech, says, I'll pitch 200 plus innings for you, but you know what else? I want to do what I couldn't do at Stanford. I want to hit. So guess what? In 55 games, Kennedy hit 312, slugged 720. Why am I giving you stats for someone who's an ace and someone who's an MVP hitter, an all-star hitter? Because Texas Tech stood up and said, that's got to be worth $1 million. How? How do you get paid back? Here's where the math gets fuzzy. Will Texas Tech, by being in the Women's College World Series, is there a direct benefit, a direct distribution that can match what the roster would cost or even what she herself would cost? And the answer is when you can't tie direct benefits to an expenditure, what you end up doing is you end up deciding to establish other ways of measuring. You say, we've gotten, and you'll read about this often, we've gotten 669 mentions in the national press. We got 42 minutes on SportsCenter, and we got 12 seconds on ABC Nightly News. We got 49 million likes and 73 posts. And if we add all that up at a conservative, let's say 1 penny per moment, that was a $10 million gain just for signing her. And we only had to pay her $1 million. That's a $9 million profit. It is funny the math you can do, believe me. And there's some funny math going on in Texas Tech, but you have got to give credit where credit is due. Congratulations, Texas Tech. I am not a fan of talking about girlfriends, lovers, and wives. I've told some stories about some funny things that have happened in my career with all of the above. How fun family trips can be when a player brings a girlfriend and a wife. Fun. It's fun. Talk about different seating sections in a ballpark. One for wives, one for girlfriends, one for neither. It's fun. Here's what I don't do is gratuitously talk about relationships because I'm not the TMZ guy. We all know that Paul Skeens is a Cy Young candidate, a performing pitcher for a organization that is not winning games. And what you also know about Paul Skeens is he's got a girlfriend at the moment named Livvy Dunne. Livvy Dunne is absolutely a extremely well-known college athlete herself, one of the faces of the current House settlement for NIL, not just Paul Skeens' girlfriend, not just a huge presence on social media, not just a Sports Illustrated model doing splits on the runway. I'm not here to tell you whether the relationship is real, fake, staged, love, not love, don't care. Something happened with Livvy Dunne yesterday that drew my attention, and I wanted to talk about it. She went public, and she was very upset with people who are trying to get her autograph. She said that she's being harassed at places, including airports, to the point that she can't actually function in the public space, needing security to swat people away, literally and figuratively. Trying to figure out how to come to grips with the fact that her fame and fortune comes from the very people who want her autographs, and that sort of attention is what she needs in order to keep attention on herself, to monetize herself. It is a daily grind of posting, of doing things. Hi, I'm David Samson. I am 1/1000th the size of Livvy Dunne, though not physically. And I know what I have to do for likes, for clicks, for ego, for time, to respect what you give me. It is very difficult for people who make a living, who try to pretend that they don't want to be part of the normal. They don't want to react. They don't want to live in the normal because they've been able to live in the sky based on the normal buttressing them, being the ladder. Because you, the audience, you, the consumer, you, the viewer, you're the ladder we all use to live the lives we live. That sort of codependency is an interesting one that I think about all the time. I thought about it when I was the president of the Marlins. I think about it now when I'm doing a show every day. I thought about it even on Wall Street. I just think about what it is to respect people enough, but to not want to be like them or live like them, but to honor them and appreciate them in a way that's genuine and real while you're doing it from the ivory tower that they built. If Livvy Dunne has to go public the way she did, blasting autograph seekers, it brings me back to when players would tell me they didn't want to sign because they'd approach and there'd be a bunch of kids that they knew were being paid by adult collectors, when they knew that when they were signing something, they were creating value for someone, not for love of the game, not for love of the player, but for profit. Think about what it is to be an artist. Think about Picasso going to a cafe and writing on the check, saying, I don't need to leave a tip. How's this? Doing a little doodle. Well, that looks about like $35,000. When you have the ability to create money, every time a player signs a ball, they're creating money. Is it $5? Is it $100? Is it $500? You are creating money with your signature, and you want to know why certain players won't sign at certain times? Because they've got deals where they sign and get paid to sign. Our food room at Marlins Park would be used 10 times a year by players who had separate deals with companies, memorabilia companies, where there would be loads of balls and bats and numbers and jerseys and yada and photos, and the players would sign, they'd get paid, and the companies would then sell it. Go on eBay, go on the Google, and you will see the business that is collecting. But what do you do when you're just out to dinner, or you're walking through an airport, or you're at a movie? Some people don't know how to act. Some people will interrupt family time. Some people will interrupt friend time. As a person, you have to try to discern, are these people doing it for love of the game, or are they doing it for profit of the game? The answer is, in Livvy Dunne's circumstance, my guess is it's going to be 80-20. 80% profit, 20% love of the game. It is one thing to be 6'10" walking through an airport. There are ways that people can go and be hidden. There are ways that people can board a plane. They never actually go through the regular part of the airport. There are ways that certain stars can be treated. It is rare to see a movie star or an athlete just walking through an airport. It happens, but it's rare, whether they're flying privately or whether they've got a private entrance or a different way to go through certain terminals. When someone is out there at a movie or someone's out there at dinner, the proper behavior is to just nod, say hello. You can say thank you. You can introduce yourself. Don't want to bother you, But the sort of thinking is you don't go for the autograph at that point. You don't go for the selfie at that point. Certain stars don't want to take pictures. They don't want to take selfies, or they don't want to sign autographs. And my point has always been, I didn't agree with it, but I've changed. And the reason I've changed has a lot to do with the online abuse that we talked about yesterday, the way that certain people act around celebrity, and the way that so many people are now celebrities who have no training in celebrity. They're celebrities because of their social media, because of their followings. And it's created unbelievable monetization. I don't want people to get on Livvy Dunne at all for what she did coming out against autograph seekers. I want people to have empathy and to understand it. That's what we do on Nothing Personal, is we try to explain things that are not fully understood. I want to talk about the Club World Cup. If you were on my social media at David P. Samson, you may have seen a video I did in conjunction with DraftKings. I'll be doing more throughout the Club World Cup. It's a tournament that's taking place where there is $1 billion at stake. There is money everywhere in this FIFA Club World Cup. It is a Club World Cup that will have teams from around the world, including teams from MLS. Yesterday, the Seattle Sounders, the players who play for the Seattle Sounders, went public with a little bit of anger. The Seattle Sounders players want a bigger share of the pot. Does that sound familiar to every single player in every single union you've ever heard about? When the fight is always about, here's the pot of money, how do we split it? We, as the talent, want to say in how it's split. Actors try to get a percentage of the gross. Only a certain number can. Some actors want a percentage on the back end, front end, side end. Some just get paid union scale and they do their job. They're lucky to have a job if they have one at all. When you're a professional athlete, you tend to say, I'm the best of the best. I'm the Academy Award winner of the acting branch. Therefore, I deserve to have a bigger piece, a bigger say in how I get paid. They've got a union in theory that's supposed to protect them, bargain for them. Here's the thing about the Club World Cup. We talked about the fact that FIFA is giving a tremendous amount of money to each participant. As a matter of fact, just for being there, the MLS team gets $10 million, 9.55, I rounded up. There are teams who are getting $30 million just for being there. You can get up to $100 million for your team if you win. And what the players said is, and if you're watching on Nothing Personal with David Samson, you can see the breakdown of the amount of money that a team can get per round. The numbers will stagger you. And what the players said is, give me my share. And what the rules are is that each team, and this is collectively bargained, folks, the Seattle Sounders players agreed to a collective bargaining deal. There's nothing I like less when players agree to something and then say, oh, that's not fair. You agreed to it. The CBA in Major League Soccer says that the teams can give $1 million bonus to players. That means in a roster of 30 players, the Seattle Sounders, no matter how much money is made by the exhibition game, by the FIFA Club World Cup, by traveling anywhere, the most money a player can get is $33,000. Does that sound not like enough? Does it sound worthy of getting upset about? You bet your sweet Bippy, but guess what? They've got no pitch to stand on. The reason is it's all there in black and white. If you don't like it, negotiate it differently the next time you get a chance to negotiate. Caps are put in for a reason because Major League Soccer teams have not made money historically. It's like the WNBA thinking all of a sudden it's popular. Hell yeah, now we're printing money. Doesn't make up for all the money you already lost over the years. Of course, the Players Association for Major League Soccer had to stand up and say, hey, we are united with the Seattle Sounders players who tonight demanded a fair share of the FIFA World Cup prize money. FIFA's new tournament piles onto players' ever-increasing workload without regard to their physical well-being. In order to seize this additional calendar territory, FIFA had to commit historic amounts of prize money to secure club and player participation. As a result, Major League Soccer will receive an unprecedented financial windfall. Think about that quote and what it's really saying. You could have erased that entire thing and just said, you know what? We negotiated a bad deal. We're going to do better next time. Because think about what they can do. What is your thought? Show of hands out there in the studio audience. Hold on, I don't see anybody. What do you think they can do? They can go on strike. Do you think they'll get the whole union to agree when only a couple of the MLS clubs are playing in the FIFA World Cup? You think that there'll be a bunch of players willing to forego their salary, their compensation? You think that there's a possibility of a union vote for a strike? No chance, toilet pants. What about the possibility when the next CBA comes that there is a provision in there that bonuses are not capped and it should be actually tied to the amount of money that the MLS clubs actually receive? So if an MLS club gets $100 million, 50% of it should go to the players. You think that's going to work? Think that's going to fly? Here's why it's not. Because when you are management and you are negotiating a collective bargaining agreement, you do it with an amount of purpose. You do it by measuring all issues and the impact those issues have financially. It's not just about player compensation. You're talking about retired compensation. You're talking about benefits. You're talking about operating costs. All of the things that go into your calculation when you're doing a CBA, player comp is just one of those things. But two members of the union, they may pretend we want to take care of the players who come after us. We want to acknowledge the players who came before us. The majority of times, the players just want to take care of themselves. And it is so important for you to note that as part of FIFA World Cup, where we're talking about the Seattle Sounders and their players, don't forget EPL's involved here. And the EPL collective bargaining agreement is totally different. Way more money is available and shared with players on the EPL side. There is no $1 million limit the way there is in Major League Soccer. Why? Because EPL is a far more profitable league, and I don't mean that according to annual operating income. I mean that according to franchise value. It's not even close what Chelsea's worth versus what even Inter Miami is worth. They are a long, better established league. Major League Soccer is not new. It's not sort of a fledgling league. It tried stuff with David Beckham. It's moved on to Lionel Messi, and it's trying to put itself in a position where it can compete in the big boy room with NFL, NBA, MLB, and NHL. And it's just not there. So what the Seattle Sounders are doing sounds right to me. It's just the wrong timing. The ability for them to effectuate change will happen going forward, but it will not happen at the pace they want. It will not happen in the amount they want, but it will happen. Make sure you pay attention to the Club World Cup because the matches are going to be pretty cool. I want to end the show just with a quick shout out on a topic that Coca does not necessarily have as much feeling as I do. I do enjoy watching all of the F1 races. I do enjoy watching the drama, watching Drive to Survive. And if you get a chance to watch any video for what happened in the race this past weekend in the Spanish Grand Prix, I want you to just pay attention to Max Verstappen, and I want you to pay attention to what it is when an aging athlete who used to be the greatest without competition is all of a sudden normal, all of a sudden losing, and the things that that athlete will do. And then think about it in your own life. Think about it just in your own job. When you used to be the best and you know you can't be anymore for whatever reason, it makes you do things and say things that you otherwise wouldn't do. Manifested this weekend at the Grand Prix. Appreciate all of your help today. We'll be back tomorrow with another edition of Nothing Personal. It's just business. This is Nothing Personal.